This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop about research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared from our students, faculty, and other members of our USC community.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back into another episode of Viterbi Voices. As usual, I am one of your co-hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma, Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
And hi, everyone. My name is Emily Powis, and I'm a senior studying biomedical engineering.
And joining us is someone who is new to the podcast. Introduce yourself, brand new mystery guest.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jordan, and I am a second-year computer science major.
All right. And where are you from?
Oh, of course. I'm from Seattle, Washington, so a very computer science-centered city.
All right, Jordan. Thanks for being here. And I was right? This is your first time on the podcast, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Well, very cool. Now you, as your first time on the podcast, you are taking us in a whole new direction. We're going to tell us what we put together for this episode and what it's all about.
Yeah, of course. So for this episode, I decided to interview a couple of my friends who are all studying different aspects of computer science. So the computer science department is broken into 4 different parts. So there's regular computer science, there's a computer engineering discipline, a business discipline, and a computer science games discipline. So we break all of those disciplines down and talk about what each of these students are doing in their respective fields.
All right. And now, spoiler alert, are there huge differences between these degree programs, or what do you think is one of the big takeaways that people should listen for?
I think people should listen for kind of to see what they want to do with a computer science degree, because really you can go into any of these fields with a basic computer science degree. You can be successful at Viterbi with whatever specialization you choose, but going into these majors can help you explore your interests and deepen your understanding of that field. So you should really do what fits your plan and your goals.
Absolutely. And I think I want to highlight that before we kind of jump into the episode here, is that oftentimes students in high school tend to think that there are correct choices and incorrect choices. Like, oh my God, which of these is the best one? Which of these is the one where I'm going to be the most successful? And there is no way to actually predict that. It's much more about ask yourself a question. Which of these sound cool to you? Which of them sound interesting to you? What are the things that you want to do? And that's just the place where you're going to get started. So if you're looking at our application process right now and you're trying to decide, oh my gosh, there's these different computer science disciplines, I don't know what's going on. First off, listen to this episode, it's going to help you. But second, when you walk out of this, you're not deciding whether you're going to be doing that, for the rest of your life. You're not even deciding whether that's the degree program that you're going to be finalizing or wrapping up. This is just the program you want to be starting in to understand it. And as you start taking courses, there will be flexibility. If you realize, wow, I think I want to go down that computer science business path, or maybe I want to go to the games path, or maybe I want to go to the engineering hardware path side of things, there are lots of options. It's very flexible, and students change their mind between these all the time, right, Jordan? You have students that start in one and go to the other?
Yeah, actually, for example, I started in biomedical engineering, and my other friend was in mechanical engineering, and we all ended up in computer science. So you don't even have to be apply as a computer science major to go into any of these fields, which I think is really interesting and really cool.
This is true. But when you come to our application, make sure you're putting down the thing that you are the most interested in at the time. If you change your mind, totally fine. Anyways, let's get out of the way and hand it over to Jordan as she brings together this panel all about the different computer science disciplines.
Why don't you all start with introducing yourselves?
Hi, I'm Georgia Danahy. I'm a computer engineering, computer science major. I am involved in Makers, which is a club here on campus where we just build kind of embedded systems projects and stuff. It's really fun.
I'm Isaac Gerstmann. I'm a sophomore from Culver City, California. I'm studying computer science and I'm involved in Makers of Georgia, as well as Case++, which is an AI-focused club. and the 3D Printing Club 3D4E.
I'm Helen Spite. I'm a CS Games major, and I'm involved in Open Alpha, which is a game development club here on campus.
I'm Jevon Torres. I'm a sophomore computer science and business administration major. I am involved mostly with the National Society of Black Engineers, NSBE, Black Student Assembly, as well as Business Technology Group.
That sounds great. Before we dive into this episode, can each of you give a quick summary of your specialization? For example, I'm a computer science major where we go through the standard curriculum to develop software engineering skills.
I'm CS Games, so my major is a dual degree between the Viterbi School of Engineering and the School of Cinematic Arts. It's pretty much an overview of it's a combination of game design and traditional programming. So you take all of the regular CS classes that aren't applied into games, and then you also take game design classes. And then there's very few, but definitely some crossover between the two. I'm currently in a video game programming class. And yeah, so basically it's just a way to combine game design and programming into more of a game programming major than just a regular CS major.
Yeah, I'm computer science, which is sort of the most standard major of the CS majors. It's split about 50-50 between practical courses that teach you how to code and build apps and whatnot, and theoretical courses in which I never touch a programming language or compiler or anything. We're in the engineering school fully, so it's very STEM focused, but there are some opportunities through our technical electives to expand into other reaches such as game design, AI, that kind of stuff.
I'm in computer engineering, computer science, which is basically the intersection between, more of the hardware and the software. So I take a lot of the CS classes, but I also get to take more classes in actual hardware, in embedded systems and Internet of Things, where it's actually, programming for devices.
And then with computer science and business administration, we're taking courses between both Viterbi and the Marshall School of Business. So most of the computer science courses that are offered through Viterbi, in addition to accounting, economics, and then the intro into the more business ideals. So there is a little bit of theoretical crossover, but the track is somewhat separate between those two schools.
Yeah, it's super interesting to hear about all the different specializations and programs in the computer science department. For our listeners, if I forgot to mention, I'm a computer science major like Isaac. I also have a minor in computational biology and bioinformatics. However, I applied to USC as a biomedical engineering major, so I didn't go through the process of applying to college as a computer science student. So for all of you, what made you want to pursue CS in college, more specifically USC? Or, if you transferred into CS, what made you want to switch majors?
I applied into USC as a CS Games major, mostly because when I was filling out the applications at all my schools, I applied straight CS everywhere, but I saw this major here and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And that was honestly my whole motivation to check that little box, but it ended up paying off for me big time. I got here, I just started doing all my game design classes, and I was if I don't end up liking this, I can transfer to straight CS because it's really easy in Viterbi to transfer between majors. So I ended up falling in love with the game design classes that I was a part of. My second semester, I was in this game design workshop class that really changed my whole view on the major, because it was we had to make and physically build 5 different board games. And that was just an absolute blast. And it was a huge amount of iterating and actually getting the process of it, which especially being able to apply that in a CS context has been a really cool application of the STEM focus that I wanted to do.
For me, I've known that I wanted to do computer science since I was 7 years old. It's never really been a question for me that I was going to do computer science. I think the reason I chose USC specifically, this is kind of a buzzword in the engineering department, but engineering plus. So not only am I going to do computer science, but I can take up a film minor, or I can be engaged in Dorn-Sci, or I can do honors programs like thematic option while still getting the CS degree. I feel it's also a really good split between practical and theory, so I can go to grad school if I want to, or get a job in industry right out afterwards. And I figured it would be one of the best qualities of life of a CS major at any school.
I think in terms of the program that I ended up going with, which was CSBA, as I mentioned, USC was pretty much the only school that had offered something like that. As I was going through the application process, similar to what Helen was talking about, like I was applying mostly straight CS places, but if they asked for an intended minor or something like that, I would bring up business or accounting or something related to that. But USC was the only one where it had this program straight from the beginning where it was going to sort of make it much easier to accomplish. And it was a program that other people had gone through and figured out the details for. So again, it was just one of the only offerings, and that's what I got excited about.
Yeah, I had a much more circuitous route, I think, to get to computer science. I applied to Viterbi as like undecided engineering. Um, and then I eventually decided I was going to be mechanical engineering. And then I took mechanical engineering classes for my first semester and was like, ew, physics. So then I decided to switch into computer engineering, computer science, because I do really like computers. Like I'm kind of obsessed with some like computer stuff, but I also really like working with like hands-on things. So I thought it was a good mix between the two.
I think it's fun to hear how everyone got here, because I think for me, I was a biologist-centered person, and I ended up pursuing computer science. But it seems like some of you knew you wanted to be computer scientists. Like Isaac mentioned, you wanted to be a computer scientist as a young child, which absolutely blows my mind because I don't think I knew what computer programming was until I was like in high school. But anyways, what kinds of classes do you all take in your specializations? It seems like you guys are in different specialties of computer science, so how do your specialized classes differ from the typical CS classes?
I take sort of like the most standard course load of the majors, again, split between theory and practicality. So first semester, I took Introduction to Programming and Discrete Mathematics and Computer Science. One class taught C++, another class taught Discrete Mathematics, which is this notion of numbers not on a sliding scale as like 1, 1.1, 1.12, but a set series of numbers. Second semester, I took what was it called? Algorithms and data structures, I believe. That's sort of like USC's like hard weeder course for computer science students, but it's a very good course, and it's the course I've learned the most in so far. And then this semester, I'm taking Introduction to Software Development and Introduction to Algorithms of Computer Science. So again, one practical and one theoretical course.
I feel like I stray pretty far from CS in general, but throughout like freshman year, I took sort of it was BU 8304, which is kind of like a organizational behavior and leadership through Marshall, and I also took microeconomics. And then this year, or at least this fall semester, I'm taking macroeconomics as well as accounting. So again, those are all through either Leventhal or Marshall, and the more business related, no coding whatsoever, which is a good break from the classes that Isaac had mentioned, but still very enjoyable.
Yeah, that must be such a big shift from business to CS. Jevon, how do you manage that? I've taken a lot of writing courses because I'm in thematic option, and for our viewers, that's the reading and writing honors program. And it can be really challenging switching from STEM to liberal arts in courses. Is business kind of a break for you, or is it a bit of a challenge?
I would say, I mean, it seems like a cop out answer, but I would say it's a break and a challenge. It's a break in terms of like the part of the quote unquote the part of the brain that you're using. It like the classes are still challenging, but it is just a different way of thinking for between the two schools. So I would say it is a cool diversion to have, not necessarily a break, but to not stress the mind doing the same things is cool.
Yeah, and so Helen, in your CS games major, do you think the creative process related to game making offers a similar sort of break that Jevon mentioned?
Yeah, I was just about to say that I agree with exactly what Jevon said about how it like definitely is a break to get like having all of the classes that I do that are in the film school is both very cool because I get kind of a community outside of just CS, and it's and all the kids that are just doing programming all the time, and I kind of get to see a little bit of a world outside of that while also applying my major into that field, which I find really interesting. As for like, yeah, it's also definitely a challenge because like applying, like right now the class that I'm taking is video game programming, and like applying all the stuff that we learned in the intro to programming class and in the data structures class into like, I've coded like just in this semester, I've coded Pong, Asteroids, Frogger, Mario, Zelda, and I'm currently coding Pac-Man for this class. So it's like a new like game every week, and like applying the stuff that we all learned in 104, which is like the really hard reader class, into something that I find really interesting is like finally the first time where I feel like I'm really combining everything that I've like come to learn at this point, which is really cool, especially as someone who's in a dual major that like gets to see both of those in one class, because a lot of times it's like one or the other.
Yeah, so it seems that Georgia, since you're studying the intersection of computer science and electrical engineering, you wanted to stay in Viterbi and dive more into the engineering side of computer science. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I really like hands-on stuff, but so I felt like, computer science is great because I love computers, but then I can't like press any buttons on the computer other than the keyboard. So yeah, I really just liked doing the more fun things with the actual like hardware. So like the classes I take are generally mostly computer science classes up until like almost where like Isaac's at, I think. And then I start going more into like circuit design and like network security and linear systems, and so robotics, and so it's like I think the intersection is really fun, and getting out there just more than just being a code monkey is going to be fun.
So, I know that each of you alluded to your involvements. For example, Isaac, you mentioned Case++, the Artificial Intelligence Society, which is very computer science centered, and Jevon mentioned some entrepreneurship things. And I remember, Helen, you mentioned your game development club. Can each of you elaborate on how each of your specializations impacted what organizations you became involved in?
I think I can see like two ways that I've already seen a little bit of an application, but I mentioned being involved with NESB. So I currently serve as the treasurer, and I won't sound like a financial or like accounting expert, but definitely like the perspective that some of my classes have given has given me a good advantage to hold that position, dealing with like the money that we have for the club and what we can afford to do and what we can afford to or what we can afford to do. So that those courses have given a good perspective on that. And then one of my other involvements is BTG, or Business Technology Group, which is basically a consulting group on campus where we're working with clients ranging from like small nonprofits to larger corporations. But the the problems that clients are coming to us with a lot of the times are involving implementations of new software, or how they can fix software that isn't working the way that they want to currently. So a lot of technological entrepreneurship kind of applications that people are looking to either have built or fixed, and the CS experience that I've garnered has given a good toolkit for that team.
That sounds super interesting. I know that it's really common in Viterbi to be involved in entrepreneurship. Are most of the CS majors involved in entrepreneurship CSBA majors, or are there some regular CS majors mixed in there?
Oh no, I think everyone's looking to be involved in or not everyone is looking to be involved in entrepreneurship, but those that are involved in entrepreneurship, there is no like specific major. Everyone is trying to, or there's a bunch of different people, a wide variety, and it's not like one specific major gives you an advantage over the other, because every major has its own values that it would bring to a certain kind of team in terms of entrepreneurship.
It's great to hear how inclusive the entrepreneurship community is towards all disciplines. That brings me to Helen. You mentioned your involvement in Open Alpha. Do you want to talk about how you got involved in that org, and would you have joined if you weren't a CS Games major?
Yeah, so Open Alpha is pretty much the only hands-on design or game design club on campus. It's also a pretty new club, but the huge part about Open Alpha is that like we stress that all majors are welcome. So right now, most of our cohort actually isn't in the games program. We have like probably, I think we have a little over half are in Viterbi, but then other than that, it's kind of all over. We have like 5 narrative studies majors. We have some cognitive science majors. We got kind of all over the board, anybody who's interested in making a game. And yeah, what we do is like every semester we come up with an idea. We have a 12-week production schedule, and we release a game on Steam. So it's pretty hands-on, pretty project-based, and relatively rigorous, considering it's like not a super long production schedule, but it's also like been one of the best communities that I've been a part of here, especially because it's just like anybody who's interested in it. It's not about like majors or like who you are on paper. It's about like what your passion is. And I think that's really cool. But how I got involved, sorry, that was your question. I got involved as a first semester freshman online. And then I had gone to their like little interest meeting thing back in April once we got accepted as USC students for like potential freshmen. And I talked to the like club leadership then, and I really, really loved like the idea of the club. And I wasn't really sure if I wanted to stick with my major. So I thought like a good hands-on club would be a good way to get an idea of that. Ended up falling in love with it, falling in love with the community. And now I'm the president of the club. So kind of had that cool way of working my way up and feeling really involved in that. So that's been huge for me.
Wow, that's literally so impressive. It's always fun to hear about female leadership, especially in CS. Transitioning to the more engineering-focused side of the department, Isaac and Georgia, I know you're involved in Makers. Do you guys want to talk more about that?
Yeah, so Makers is like a big community of just kind of, well, it's called Makers, so Makers. And we every semester or year we do projects where it's for example, one time we made like a boba machine where it was like, there's like hardware involved in like making the boba pour, but then there's also like, software of like controlling when the boba is poured. And so I'm the director of marketing for Makers. And Isaac, do you want to talk about what you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm associate director of technical resources, which means I help with a lot of the tutorials we put on that teach things like how to use GitHub and Terminal and Arduinos and so on and so forth. And I manage our inventory. We're lucky to have a lot of funding, both from USC itself and from corporate sponsors like Qualcomm and Microsoft that allow us to have a lot of interesting parts and processors and whatnot that any of our members can use.
Yeah, and so we've had a lot of like fun tutorials with that. I know last year we did this like mini hackathon where we all got like Arduino, like not Arduino, Adafruit clues, and people made some really cool things with that. My team, we were like trying to make these like game controllers for Minecraft that were specifically like we had these like sensors, like fire sensors, and so we were like, I know that a great way to make Minecraft better would to be make a flame sensor. And so you have to actually, in order to light a flint and steel, you have to actually light a lighter, do all these things. So I think my favorite thing about it is just how creative the club is. And I think sometimes in college we're kind of all really pressured into being like trying to solve all the issues of the world, and in Makers it's just been really fun to be able to kind of make useless but like exciting engineering projects that really just you learn a lot and have a fun time.
I think to me the big thing that sets Makers apart from like a lot of other clubs is just the community. I love the people in Makers. They're so great. We hang out with each other all the time. They're really nice people. I would genuinely sit in a room and do nothing but talk with them for hours on end. And I think Makers is truly what made my freshman year so enjoyable, even online. I'm very fortunate to be part of it.
Yeah, and me too. Like I'm from Virginia, and I was basically in my basement in Virginia the entire year. And so Makers was great because I actually, got to like meet people from the USC community. It was a wonderful organization.
Wow, well, I really want to incorporate what Georgia said about being online and what Helen said about joining orgs to inform your interests and your specialization. So were there any points in your college career where you were like, maybe I shouldn't be in CS and maybe I should go into CS games instead, or I don't want to be a CSB major, maybe I should go and get a business admin degree? Have you always been pretty set in your specialization, and how did you navigate that process of selecting a program that fits you?
I definitely had that whole thing happen where I was in mechanical engineering. Like I had, there's a lot of stuff going on. Like engineering 101 was like, for mechanical engineering 101 was like hard. And I was like, ew, this is not fun. And so I think going and talking with a lot of other upperclassmen, just talking about their experiences really helped me figure out what I wanted to do. I remember I had like a mentor who was like also a mechanical engineer, but like even just talking with him about like what like his goals in life were really made me realize like, hey, maybe I want to interact with computers instead of just like making faucets or whatever, you know. So it was, yeah, I think really reaching out to upperclassmen was like the way that really helped me figure out what I wanted to do with my major.
Yeah, so I actually like applied, as I've already kind of said, I applied in as CS Games because I thought it sounded cool. But then I kept going with it and I really, really enjoyed it. And after I had that first semester in both like a hands-on project club and in the CS Games curriculum, I like couldn't see myself anywhere else. I've actually spent a considerable amount of time on like the like list of, you know, hundreds of minors that USC offers, and I'm like, none of this sounds as interesting as my major does.
Yeah, no, I think I have a very similar path to Georgia's, but then I've also ended up kind of where Helen is. Like when I look at a long list of programs that I could be doing, I realize I'm in a good place for my own personal interests. I actually transferred from biomedical engineering to computer science because I talked to someone who had done the exact same thing I wanted to do, and then I realized, you know, I still really like biology, which is why I added on my bioinformatics minor and whatnot. But how about you, Jevon? Remind me, you applied to USC as a CSVA major and you've been sticking with it ever since?
Yeah. I think there were some points during like some of the classes, especially like discrete math and a little bit of like the introduction to programming that made me like think about switching to just business. But like I stuck through it just because one, I know that there were like a lot of people that I mean, kind of as you had described, that had switched from something into CSBA. So I was like, okay, clearly like there's something even from the outside that people like about this program. And then just the fact that like I don't know, I kind of realized that when you reach to these difficult moments, like the first instinct is to kind of just self doubt or like, oh, look for a way out. But that's not usually the best option. There is a way to get through things, whether that's like finding other students that are going through the same stuff or reaching out to the professor or I don't know, just kind of sitting back and realizing that like you have to get through some kind of struggle to make the end worth it. So that's kind of where I was at. But I'm sticking through it. So in it for the long haul. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so do you guys think that your specializations have at all influenced your career choices and academic path? And do you think it's important for people like prospective applicants to really think about these choices while they're applying to USC?
I would say that my specialization or lack thereof of a specialization definitely allows me to be the most fluid with what I do afterwards. I think I have a specialization if you want to go into grad school for sure, because CECS, CSBA, and CS Games are all focused on specific professional industries. And I also think that with the technical electives that we take, it gives me the most leeway to sort of choose my path down the road if I want to do a more robotics focused path or a more AI focused path or a more, game design focused path without going the CS Games route. Um, if I want to go to grad school or just want to have options open, pure CS is the way to go.
Those are fighting words, Isaac, because I think that CSBA is probably like the most wide you could spread your net because you're not going just too far into engineering or into like the business kind of idea, and you can do anything. You could do consulting, you could do technology consulting, you could do SWE, you could do SDE, you could do anything. So I think that like my idea kind of going into it was that CSBA was going to give me a lot of different options, and I still currently see those options going into like internships and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I really enjoyed applying to internships right now as a computer engineering, computer science major because whenever an internship requires is like looking for computer engineering people, I always say I'm a computer engineer, and then whenever they're looking for computer science people, I say I'm a computer scientist because they don't necessarily have the like computer engineering and computer scientist role, so I could just like pretend I'm both. But I do have to say, like as a freshman, like coming into engineering, like I think like for people that didn't have go to high schools, like my high school is kind of low income and we didn't really have a lot of engineering like access to opportunities and stuff. Um, and so I do think like it can be hard to like know what kind of engineering you want to do. And I don't think you have to know what engineering you want to do when you're coming in. Like I do think like I don't know, some people are lucky with what they choose, but that's not always the case. And there's leeway there to like switch majors and kind of find yourself. So I wouldn't be too pressured coming in and thinking, oh, I have to know absolutely what I want to do. Like I know people that have like changed majors like 3 times. Like you can find your way and they're still graduating on time in engineering. Like it's like hard and you have to make it work, but you have time to find yourself.
Yeah, actually on that, my roommate, she switched her major 3 different times freshman year and then landed on CS, just like regular CS. So like, and then she's set to graduate in 4 years, definitely. Like she will not have an issue with that. Which yeah, that's cool. But what was the question that you asked originally? Sorry, it's been so many people I want to.
No, yeah, no worries. So the first part of my question was, how do you think your specialization influence your career path and academic choices? And also, do you think it's important for prospective students to think about declaring their specializations or even like CS early, like through the application process or whatnot?
I think that declaring that you might potentially be interested in CS is important to say early, because then you can take like 1 or 2 of the intro CS classes, see if you like it, dabble in it, and then maybe at that point transfer in. But I mean, it's totally doable to do in 4 years. It's just important, especially like because, as Isaac already said, like the data structures class that we all have to take, that's like kind of the weeder class. And if you're on the CS track, you take that your freshman year, which is honestly really important. Or like at the beginning of your sophomore year, just doing it very early on is a really good indicator of whether you're going to succeed in the major or not. But yeah, with like my specialization in particular, I have, honestly, I kind of did it and stuck with it, but in terms of like career and academic aspirations, I've recently come to the conclusion that like maybe I don't want to be a code monkey for the rest of my life. And more like game production is probably what I'm going to be looking at doing post-graduation. So I'm starting to apply to internships for like production and things like that. And like I'm currently, as the president of the club, I'm technically the producer for the game that we're making. So it's like more people management, but I'm also like having the technical background to be able to communicate clearly with like the game programmers on my team, which I think is really important.
I was recently a moderator for a Women in Engineering's live chat, and I would love to hear about everyone's opinions on this question. A lot of people ask, like, do you need to know how to code before going into college? I recently wrote a blog post about this for the Viterbi Voices blog, and I would be interested to hear what you guys think, since I can see both sides. Like, yes, you should learn how to code, but no, you don't necessarily need to be successful at Viterbi. What do you guys feel about this?
I think it will help. I do think that knowing how to code does sort of help with one roadblock with one major speed bump down the road. That being said, the program is designed for people who don't know how to code. There's an entire course called CSI 102. It's a class, it's only 2 units. It's usually taught by this really great professor named Professor Redekop. And that class will teach you the fundamentals of programming from the start. And the other benefit of that is that sort of means that you'll be taking classes, at least for the first year and a half, with other students who have also just learned to code, which means that you're in a pretty supportive environment the entire way. That being said, it helps to know how to code. You will feel more comfortable in your classes, but you can definitely get by without knowing how to code.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should go in with the expectation that they need to know how to code, but it definitely does help. But like, yeah.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of one other thing. I do not think you need to know a specific language going in. The main language taught in the first couple of years, in the first couple of semesters of USCCS is C++. And I feel like not many of us knew that coming in. That's not what matters. It's more just the understanding of what programming is like, what these fundamental ideas like a while loop and a for loop and object-oriented programming will help.
Yeah, in my opinion, coding is more about like how your brain works than the actual knowledge of being able to code. So if you have the type of problem solving like mindset, like the reason that I decided to do computer science is because I realized very early on that I'm like a super pattern-based thinker, and that kind of I wanted to apply it into more of a technical field, and this kind of just seemed like something that lined up really well with that. So like I didn't need to have the knowledge of coding going in. I think as long as I had the mindset that I do about like how I work as a problem solver, I think that that's what makes like computer scientists different.
Yeah, I do think it takes like a special kind of person to like enjoy the process of coding. Um, so it's definitely not for everybody, but if I think most people should like try it just to see if they like it, because I know a lot of people who like never really did coding before and thought it wasn't for them, maybe because they were a woman or something. But then it turns out like, oh, I do like this, right? It clicks in my brain.
Yeah, and I think to kind of build off that point, I actually became a CS major because I learned how to code for a wet lab research position. With COVID-19, I had to transfer all of my work online. So part of me sees these brand new coders who just learned how to code and that are very successful and wants to tell people that you don't need coding experience to be a CS major at Viterbi. But I think that it's also good, even if you're just a little interested in computer science, to boot up Khan Academy or something. And then also, to extend off of that question about coding experience, do you guys have any advice for future USC computer science students?
This is an obvious one, but start working on your time management, especially at USC, which is a very social school. It is so easy to spend all of your time doing fun things or all of your time doing homework. There's a lot of opportunities here, a lot of things you're going to want to do. Get yourself ready to be very organized with your time and have a very good understanding of your study habits and to constantly be working on improving the way both that you like live your life, take your classes, and just sort of think about time.
Yeah, I would also say like don't limit yourself. Like I think oftentimes like imposter syndrome can be a thing where people are like, oh, I'm not smart enough to do this, right? And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think sometimes there can be people that are like they're like really try to like show how smart they are, and so then that can be like intimidating. But yeah, really, if you got into USC, like you're smart enough to do anything you apply yourself to. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of going off of that, like if you're here, you're meant to be here. And if you're here, you don't need to have everything figured out right away. But if you're putting this much time and energy into your education, then it's important to do something that you're interested in and not just like you immediately decide what you want to do. Don't just like stick to that because you think that like, oh, am I going to graduate in 4 years? All this stuff. Like USC will help you graduate in 4 years.
I think to go a little bit of a different route in terms of advice, like one thing to realize, at least once you like get here and start studying, is that everything that you'll learn is important eventually. So like to give I guess an example, like I wouldn't feel specifically like rushed to go from like straight into 103, for example, and skip 102 if like there's any concern. I think like a good kind of way to think about it is if you're questioning at all if you should go into 102, I feel like you should just go into that introduction and get a strong foundation, then like go into something that you're not fully familiar with and then possibly fall behind because you're trying to catch up and do so much so quickly. So recognize that everything is important, everything builds upon each other, but also don't be afraid to kind of build that foundation and you'll be fine in terms of time. There's no rush to jump ahead.
Yeah, so looking at the time, I'm just gonna ask one more final question. So why is your specialization, or lack thereof, like Isaac's in mind, the best major in the CS department?
I feel like this is a bit of a hard question because I think it depends on what's best for you. Um, so I think computer engineering, computer science is the best for me because it is the intersection of hardware and software. And I love being hands-on, but I also love computers, right? I like was building computers in middle school, not because I wanted to play the video games, but because I wanted to build the computer. And so I think finding that space for me to like get into both of my interests is great. And yeah, getting to look at like the applications of computer science and like what actually I can make the computers do with like quantum computing. It's just fascinating and I love it.
Kind of similar to like the combination that Georgia was just talking about, like having both the creative and the technical side for CS games, I think is definitely what drew me to it. And it's definitely the major for me. I have been able to explore like a bunch of different roles in the game design world. Like I don't just have to be a programmer. I can be a designer. I can be a producer. I can be an artist. I can be, you know, there's like all these different roles that I could be within games, even though I'm technically trained as a programmer, which I think is really like just amazing that it's not limited so much. And as long as you're really passionate about what you're interested in, about what you're doing, then that's like really what matters in the program. Also, a little bit of a plug here: CS Games or USC Games is the #1 game school in the country, so that's like definitely a good draw for people. I didn't even realize that until after I got in, which was kind of bad of me. But yeah, it's if you're interested in the games industry, USC is the place to go. It's where people are hiring from. It's who people want. It's like where people make game companies is out of this school. And it's kind of crazy how like every 2 or 3 years, someone will graduate and immediately go on to make this like massive hit.
All right. I kind of touched on it earlier, but just in terms of just like the wide preparation for CSBA, like you can go into so many different things, whether they are on the spectrum of like how technical you want to be, ranging from coding all the time to rarely coding but having that expertise in your back pocket. You can go and start your own company because you have entrepreneurship ideals. You can join somewhere big and still make a big contribution technically. So I just like the options. I'm somewhat indecisive, so I kind of like still being able to push that choice down the road closer to graduation in terms of what I want to do. But again, I just like that the wide range.
Yeah, for sure. I think with computer science, I think with regular computer science, it's a little different. I think with regular computer science, that's the major for someone who knows that computer science is what they want to do, but wants some more time to explore what exactly they want to do. I think games, business, and computer engineering are only 3 of an infinite number of possibilities of career paths you can take down the road, and computer science as a regular major, as opposed to a specialized major, will give you so many opportunities. And it'll also give you the opportunity down the road to switch into CS games or computer engineering, computer science, or computer science business administration if you'd like to. And the people in CS are really great, although the people in all of these 4 majors are really great.
I completely agree. Viterbi is such a fun and collaborative environment, and I'm so very glad to be part of this community. Well, that just about wraps up our CS Roundtable, where we talk to students from each CS specialized major. Thank you so much to Georgia, our computer engineering and computer science rep, Isaac, our computer science major, Jevon, our representative from computer science and business administration, and Helen from CS Games. If you want to learn more about each of these programs, please visit cs.usc.edu/academic-programs/undergrad for more information.
All right, and we're back, everyone. Thank you so much, Jordan, for that episode. I was just wondering, so you're general computer science. How did you decide to go general and not get like a specific discipline?
I really wanted to go into general computer science because there was a lot of theoretical background and knowledge about computation that I was interested in, specifically for bioinformatics, which is a biology application of computer science. But at this point, I'm really interested in going into software engineering and stray away from that computational side, which is why computer science is really great for me because it offers that flexibility.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Now, when you think about your future, do you have a exact thing in mind or a dream job in mind that you want to go toward?
I would really like to work for a healthcare or biotech company, while I am straying more towards, like I said, more of a software development job. I still want to stay in the biological applications and biotech in general.
That's cool. That's really cool. So far, what has been the hardest thing about taking computer science classes? What's the thing that's been more of a struggle than you thought it was going to be?
I think one of the hardest part about computer science classes, but also one of the most fulfilling parts, is you are constantly working on real world applications of your coursework. So you're constantly working on projects and like preparing for technical interviews, but at the same time, all of these things are going to help you with your career. And by getting through all of like the difficult coursework, you're able to become a better developer and a better computer science student in general.
Very cool. Very cool. It's funny. That's every time I was going to ask you what you enjoyed the most, but it sounds like it's the same thing. And oftentimes what a lot of people don't believe is that the hardest stuff in an engineering and computer science degree tends to be the coolest stuff that you're doing. So that's really awesome. Well, Jordan, that is a fantastic episode. Thank you so much for this conversation. I'm sure many people will find it very, very helpful as they start to debate the ideas of computer science. But onto a more relevant debate that I think you should join in on. Halloween. It's spooky season, and our podcast episodes have been all chatter about Halloween. What is your take on Halloween, Jordan? Do you have big plans? Is it a thing that you do? Are you dressing up? Tell us your story.
Love Halloween. I love going to haunted houses. I'm a huge scaredy cat, but I enjoy being scared. So like the other day I went to Universal Horror Nights and it was
Oh my
so
gosh,
fun.
really?
Yeah, it was.
I can't do that.
Yeah, but I really enjoy being scared, but it also makes it much more fun for everyone because you get like a scaredy cat in the group. It's great.
Oh my God, I hate being scared. I can't believe you like it.
I can't stand it. I went to Not Scary Farm once and I'm never going back again. I have no desire to ever do that again in my life. It's just like, why would I go scare myself over and over again? Jordan, are you like a scary movie person too? Like, do you really like horror movies?
Yeah, I am a huge horror movie person. I'm looking forward to just like starting to like once I have time during fall break, I'm gonna watch a lot of scary movies because they're really fun. It's like, I like them.
Okay,
Oh
so
my
for
gosh.
Halloween, are you dressing up?
Yeah, that's the question of the day. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to dress up as. My friends and I had an idea for group costume to be Pokemon trainers, but I'm not sure if that's going to stick. So yeah, but I do want to do a group costume. I think that would be really fun.
That's really funny because my daughter is getting into Pokemon and she was on a Zoom call with her godfather yesterday. And like on my desk are all these Pokemon cards. I'm showing you on the screen right now. And so she's obsessed with that. So I'm glad that is not what's happening in my household because I don't understand Pokemon. Someone's going to need to explain it to me at some point. I don't get it. Right now, she's just looking at cards. She's not playing at all. She watches like the shows and stuff like that, but I don't get it. One day someone's going to have to explain that to me.
Next year, your group costume is going to be Pokemon.
No,
I can just tell.
No, yeah,
I support it.
I'll be a
Paul can
giant
be
Pikachu. Yeah, a giant Pikachu. Awesome. Is there any more progress on your Halloween journey, Emily?
Okay, so I was like talking to my housemates and I forgot that we actually do have a group costume planned. We're all being Disney princesses, but my house is a mix of guys and girls. Or did I say this already?
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I forgot. So that's yes.
But yeah, so mix of guys and girls as Disney princesses. There's not an option to be a
But
prince.
last we talked, there was not clarity on what you were going to be, or do we know, or are we keeping that a secret, or what's happening?
I think I'm going to be Jasmine.
Okay.
She's always been my favorite Disney princess. She's like got the Middle Eastern heritage, so I have to like bring it home.
I love it.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Very cool.
How about you, Paul? Paul's been giving updates every week on the podcast on hints towards his costume.
Yes, lots of hints. I can't remember all of my hints. Do you remember some of them? Let's see if I can then come up with another one that's.
So the first one was that you're wearing a hat.
Yes.
There's something related to cats.
Yes.
I'm forgetting the third one.
The one I dropped last time that you weren't here for is my character is in the DC universe.
Oh, okay.
That was a new one.
I think you said it was in a book or something.
A literary character.
Yeah, literary character was the third one.
Right. I'm piecing all these things together. Jordan, don't say anything out loud. This is all going to be quiet guesses. When we're off recording, you can guess with me privately if you want. You get one guess. And I will give another clue that says I will be wearing yellow. All right. I like this is great for a podcast, just perplexed faces on the other end of the Zoom call.
Yeah, Jordan had this look of like, I know what it is, and then the second you
I
said
know.
yellow, she looked
I know.
so confused.
I threw it out. I saw her going in a direction, and I threw a yellow out, and she's like, "What?" Now she's going to be curious for quite some time. So anyway, that is my clue for this week, and that is our episode. Unless there's anything else you all want to talk. Oh, I have something we want to talk about. I'm sorry, something that's actually serious.
Oh, go for it.
We have. I don't think I said this last time. I've lost track of where we are in our recordings, but Saturday, November 6th. Saturday, November 6th is our triumphant return to in-person events on campus. And so if you are a high school senior that is looking to learn a little bit more about campus and you want to come check us out, we're going to have an open house and we're going to have some presentations on the school. We're going to have all of our students out there so you can chat with them. Discover USC, Saturday, November 6th. Go to our website, viterbiadmission.usc.edu. Click on the visit tab or just go to /visit. You can see all the details there. Register for the program. We have lots of different stuff that's happening. Cool things will be going on that day if you want to come check us out. And we're excited to welcome visitors back to campus for this one-day event, Saturday, November 6th for this Discover USC. And you can visit with Viterbi, get to know everybody, and hang out with us and come say hi. We'd love to have you. That's my big announcement. And
awesome. I'm excited.
It'll be fun. All right, y'all. I will see you all later. Emily, Jordan, thank you so much. Thanks for indulging the Halloween conversation, and we will see you all next week.